As we just settle into this moment, I'll just give a moment to allow us to be present. And if anyone does join us in the next minute, that'll be great. But for now, it looks like it's just a couple of us here live. But I think we'll get started because it's being recorded, and anyone who's watching afterwards will be able to join along with this. So, hi everyone. My name is Samantha Holmgren. I am a registered dietitian, and mindful eating has been the backbone of my professional practice for years. It entered into my practice very soon after I started meeting with clients, and it has just grown in terms of its importance and its role in my practice over time. It's also something that I use in my personal life, particularly when I'm feeling out of balance or need a reset for whatever reason. In those moments, I do a deliberate eating practice to ground myself, just like what I'm going to share with you here today, so we can eat along together. But before we get there, I just want to lay a little bit of a groundwork and get us all on the same page. So first of all, a lot of the times when we talk about being mindful, people will say, I need to be more mindful of what I'm eating. What they're generally saying is that I need to think about what I'm eating more. I need to be more intentional about food choices. And there's often this layer of judgment on those food choices. Mindful eating, on the other hand, is all about the experience, the senses, and being in the present moment non-judgmentally, simply experiencing what is happening. In the short term, that allows that very grounding and resetting type of experience, which is why it's often a recommended strategy in dialectical behavior therapy, which is a mental health theory and type of therapy. But it also can improve your digestion. I've seen it with clients and myself multiple times of, less bloating, less stomach pain after eating, even reduced heartburn because of this shift in our physical body and our mental state from the fight, flight, freeze into rest and digest. Mindful eating also helps us in the long term because when you allow yourself to experience that full joy and pleasure of eating and experience the present moment, you want more of that, right? You want to do that again and again, but it also allows your unconscious mind to build the pattern of when I eat this way, I feel good. When I eat a well-balanced meal, that feels good versus something that is lacking in balance or heavily processed as a regular part of my diet that doesn't feel good, even though it's tasty on occasion. And when you allow yourself that full experience of eating, that unconscious pattern recognition is a lot stronger, and it allows you to move towards well-balanced, healthy eating very naturally without having to force yourself into doing what you should. You're simply doing what feels good in a very intuitive way. As we get into this is something that's very simple, mindful eating. Just pay attention to what you're doing in the present moment. But that doesn't mean it's easy, right? Our brains very easily get distracted. Your phone notifications go off, or you think of something that you need to do, or something crashes somewhere else in the building and you have to go see what's happening, right? So things happen either internally or in your environment. You're going to get distracted. But as soon as you notice that distraction, that is a win. That is a way to Recognize that you've been distracted and come back to the present moment. Think of it as swimming and diving, right? In these deep, mindful moments, which we're going to start with in just a moment, I want you to think about diving really deep into the present moment, very intentionally paying attention to the present moment. As you continue to eat, you can allow yourself to come closer to the surface and just sort of swim along, still being present in the moment, paying attention to your sensations and what have you. When you notice that you've become distracted, acknowledge the win. Yes, I recognize the distraction. And then go out deep. And that will allow you to sort of recenter in that moment of distraction and come back to the present moment. So, with all of that in mind, I'd like to invite you to eat. So, whatever you've grabbed for a snack or your meal right now, excellent. I'm going to guide you in a mindful eating exercise, and we're going to go really deep on that first bite. After that, I'll encourage you to swim the mindful waters with occasional prompts to help you recenter. So first thing, I'd like you to first close your eyes. Take a deep breath and just settle into the present moment. Feel yourself grounded and anchored into the floor beneath you, the seat beneath you. Breathe and allow yourself to settle in. Ground down, your feet on the floor, your butt in a seat. Notice any smells that might be coming from your food and allow that to be part of the moment. Open your eyes and take a look at your food. Allow yourself a moment of gratitude that you have food in front of you. Send out gratitude to everyone involved in the chain of events that has led to you having food in front of you. Come back to the present moment and notice the colors, the visible textures. Is it hot? Is there steam coming off of it? What colors and shapes and textures? Imagine that you've never seen this thing before. Get curious about all of the different shapes and colors. If you can, pick up the food in your hand and notice how it feels. Engage your sense of touch. What are the textures? Is it smooth? Is it rough? Is it bumpy? What temperature is it? Is it hot or cold? Pick up the food and bring it to your nose. What smells do you pick up? Do you notice how your mouth has begun to water as you now have food in front of your face? Place the food in your mouth and just let it sit on your tongue. What tastes immediately come to the front? What textures do you feel? Take a bite and notice the explosion of flavor. As you chew, notice how your tongue is moving the food around and generally avoids being bit. When the urge to swallow arises, notice that. Notice that the food has begun to get gathered in the middle of your mouth. When you're ready, swallow and feel the food move through your mouth, down into your throat. Imagine it going down your esophagus and landing in your stomach. Pause and notice how your body feels. Now continue to eat your meal mindfully, one bite at a time, paying attention to the colors, the smells, the taste. Go as deep as you want, or allow yourself to come closer to the surface with a more open awareness. At this point, do what feels good to you. Focus on the pleasure, the freshness, or the comfort. Noticing the flavors and how one bite is different from the next, even when you're eating the same basic thing. If your thoughts wander, take a deep breath and recenter on the present moment. What are you feeling, tasting, smelling, touching? What are you hearing? How does that play into the enjoyment of the food? Continue your snack or your meal with open awareness. No need to rush. Remember that this is all about enjoying this. If you want to go very slow and savor every sense, that is amazing. If that feels painfully slow, you don't need to break down every piece, every bite. You can allow yourself to come closer to the surface with that open awareness, knowing that if you become distracted, you can always go deep after that moment of distraction. Conversely, if you begin to feel rushed, pause, close your eyes, and take a deep breath. While you pay attention to your senses, taste, touch, sight, hearing, smell. Also maintain awareness of your body, your stomach, yes, but also your energy and how you're feeling in an open awareness. Once you feel like you're done, you can take a few deep breaths and reflect on how this felt. Don't feel any pressure to rush. And if you're watching the replay, when we as we begin to wrap up, you can always pause and resume. Once you have a couple of thoughts or single words on how you're feeling, just type that in the chat and let me know when you're ready to move along. Being grounding, gratitude, We'll just give one more moment for another deep breath to wrap up the moment and open the floor for a bit of discussion and questions. So if you'd like to unmute, welcome that. And feel free to ask any questions or share your observations or comments.
Thank you. That was lovely. I prepared raspberries and grapefruit,
Nice.
which I thought would be fun. And I was rushing in from dropping my kids off to school. And this was really like I had no expectations, very therapeutic to just allow me to just gear down, which was so what I needed. And I was actually quite emotional at the beginning, which was really lovely. That deepness really grounded me. So thank you for that. And I was surprised when I lifted the raspberries up. I smelled earth. I didn't smell raspberries, which I thought was so cool.
Yes, that's amazing.
Yeah, I thought that was a really big surprise. And yeah, and somebody that's formerly had an eating disorder for quite a number of years, this was a really beautiful activity. And it's something that I never did up until a few years ago. And I love that you've reminded me to do this more and more. And you can always go deeper with this, with yourself and with your family when you're having dinner. So that's where the gratitude came from for you for hosting, and then for me for pausing and just receiving this beautiful gift. So thank you.
That's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. And it really is, I mean, that's the power of mindful eating to me, is that yes, it has, long-term benefits and we can hook it into intuition and decision making. But really, right now, it's all about enjoying and going deep and that gratitude and grounding. And there's so many in the moment benefits to it. And I love when you have those habits and behaviors that are so amazing in the present moment and they help you in the future. And it's just a beautiful thing whenever that happens.
I loved it. And yeah, it was really, it's just a beautiful reminder that you can continue to just really deepen and enrich every moment. And like, that's wealth in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for this.
And
This was really lovely.
awesome. As we wrap up, I just have a few additional comments that I wanted to share. I mentioned at the beginning that mindfulness and mindful eating specifically is a core part of my practice personally, but also with clients that I meet with. And it's particularly powerful when you are dealing with a body that isn't always comfortable, whether that's with your relationship with food due to, past eating issues, or whether that's physically having discomfort from pain and fatigue. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat. If you're watching the replay, it's also going to be in the description. But this is for an ebook that I wrote that goes into this whole idea in a lot more detail. But pain and fatigue, they're so personal. It's so different from one person to the next, and it's affected by nearly everything that happens in your life. It either impacts the pain and fatigue or is impacted by the pain and fatigue. And when you have a chronic condition, it's never going away. I will always have psoriatic arthritis. There's no cure. I'll probably have flares again in the future, and chances are it's only going to get worse as I get older. But the mindfulness, it gives me the space to fully have gratitude and enjoyment in those periods where things are going well. But it also gives me insight into what I need on a daily basis. By noticing how I feel and what's happening right now, I can respond appropriately to what I need in the present moment. I can know if what I'm doing is working and if it's not. And eating is something that for most people, we do it many times a day. Usually much more than 3 times a day, we're eating or drinking something. So it's the perfect place to practice mindfulness because you can get a dose of this grounding, calming pleasure and gratitude multiple times every day. And so in my ebook, I go into my philosophy as applied to planning, recovery, intuition, movement, and of course, eating. I am a dietitian after all. These are the prime areas of healthy habits. And I focus on the bare minimum of what the things you can do to maintain your well-being or to reset and work towards when you're exhausted and in pain and struggling. So that when you start putting these sort of bare minimum habits in place, you can actually start building that momentum and reset. So if that is resonating with you, go check out the bare minimum health plan. The link is available. And I'll hang on the line for a couple more minutes if there's any other questions, comments, or discussions live. Um, but I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.